Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now, Captain Finance himself, Sully.
Hey, welcome to the Big Biz Show, live from the Washington Studios in sunny San Diego, California. We are on the air in 125 million television homes strong, nationwide, coast to coast. Let's not forget our international partners in Bloomberg and American Forces Network. Apparently, Costa had a tough night last night, so I know he's not going to be here all week.
Birthday week for that guy, so
it is his birthday. You know, and the thing
we
was,
had presents for him.
We were all dialed in with a 20-pack of Funyuns, and I think Greg got a very special gift.
Yeah, there's some Bako bits somewhere around here.
And Mary got a whole thing of drawn butter for dipping.
Yep.
So, speaking of food, we have a very special program today. We have a barbecue. It's a hospitality group.
Yeah.
I see pizza out there. I see fried chicken out there. I see barbecue out there. I see sauce out there. So they're going to come in a few minutes, and we'll talk about that. But in the meantime, Howie Font, the entrepreneur, otherwise known as Crash, joins us here. What's up, buddy? Good to see you.
Hello.
Did you see the SI grin on that?
Oh, yeah.
SE grin?
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm never going to live that down.
Yeah. How are you? What's going on in the market? Because there was this thing called a Trump bump that you talked about last week, and man, it seems like it's continuing. Is this just over exuberance, or is this actually the way the market's going to go?
I think both, if that's fair.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of exuberance. I think a lot of things are going to come down, but the market in general is up in a big way. We touched 6,000 on the S&P 500, which just seems crazy to me because just back in COVID, we hit 3,000. So we've doubled in those 4 years, almost 5 years.
Well, and Howie, just to stay on that point, you know, it's different from going from 15,000 on the Dow to 16 or 32 to 33. It's easier to get there. But remember when the Dow was at 3,000? Remember the Great Recession when the Dow was at 4,700? Okay? I mean, those increments are not easily gained when you talk about 3,000 to 6,000. It's pretty remarkable how, if you think back on how tough it is percentage-wise to get to that point, it's insane. It would be the equivalent of going from 35,000 on the Dow to 70,000 in 4 years.
Exactly.
Think about that.
Yes.
That's a lot different. That's a lot different.
That's what makes it special. And what I'll say, just to bolster that point, is I think asset inflation has a little bit to do with this, but yeah, there is a lot of exuberance in the market. It's kind of the only place to put money in a lot of ways. So you have a lot of things besides just the general economy propping up the market. Like you always say, Wall Street, economy, not the same thing.
Yeah, the economy and Wall Street are two different things. I got to talk about Bitcoin. So how do you feel, Mary? Are you going to be a crypto person?
I don't see that happening in my near future, but potentially I'm open.
How much cash do you have in your wallet, and how long has it been there? How much cash do you have in your wallet?
I have about 55.
And how much? And I have about the same. How long have you had it in there?
A while.
Right.
Yeah.
You're already in.
Somebody paid me cash for something when I instead of Venmoing me, and now it's been sitting there, and I keep thinking.
So you already are in digital currency.
Use this.
You already are in digital currency, right? Doesn't it feel?
Well, yeah, it's all.
It's all a number. What about you?
No,
Do you use cash other than for tipping a valet?
No.
That's what I use it for. Yeah.
Me too. If I pull up to a place, like there's a restaurant called Pacific Coast Grill here in San Diego, which I love here. It's on the beach. There's no parking. You have to valet park.
Yes.
It's not crazy expensive. I think it's like $5 or $6. So you give the guy $10 by the time you're done tipping him everything else. So let's say you had a $50 bill or a $20 in your pocket. You're stuck with that until the next time you go to that place or wherever. So Howie, when we get back from the break, I want to talk about the reality because under this new administration, it sounds like he's a Bitcoin bro.
I have some interesting info.
All right.
Was he before? Yeah, let's talk about it.
Wait, was he before?
Are you talking about Trump?
Yeah.
President Trump?
Yeah. Bitcoin bro.
Bitcoin bro. I like that. Was he before in his first presidency, or is it now because of Elon Musk and this whole relationship?
I would assume that's probably the real president, Elon Musk. He's staying in Mar-a-Lago. The economic president, Elon Musk. How's that Tesla repair going for you?
Slow.
That wasn't Greg's idea, by the way. I'm just going to full disclosure. He would have bought himself a GMC dually pickup like Yellowstone.
Loft 100 Studios, The Big Biz Show, our affiliates, and our hosts are not registered investment advisors or broker-dealers.
Our show hosts make no commitment that the purchase of securities of companies profiled or otherwise mentioned in our programming
are suitable or advisable for any persons, or that investment in such securities would be profitable in general.
Given the nature of our company's profile and the lack of an active trading market for their securities, and investing is highly speculative and carries a high degree of risk. We profile selected publicly traded and privately held companies on our program.
Most of these companies that we profile have provided compensation to Loft 100 Studios and its host for the profile coverage.
3, 2, 1. From time to time, we sell shares of the companies profiled in the open market that we receive as compensation for coverage of client companies.
But never sell stock if we are speaking about, interviewing, or covering a public company who has paid compensation.
Specific questions on compensation can be obtained by contacting producer at sullyandgroup.com.
Listeners should verify all claims and do their own due diligence before investing in any securities mentioned on this program.
Investing in securities is speculative and carries a high degree of risk.
We encourage our investors to invest carefully. Duh.
And read the investor information available on the website.
On the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, at www.sec.gov.
Or the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, at www.finra.org.
Big Biz Show back. Speaking of Donald Trump, we've been talking about abusive short selling with some of these stocks.
Yep.
Les Goldman, Northwest Biotherapeutics, she's coming on next Tuesday. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are so upset at the amount of wealth they lost with abusive short selling that they are putting the targets right on companies like Citadel and Canaccord, which are market makers in the stock, for doing counterfeit shares. Yep. What's the name of the guy that heads up Citadel again?
Ken Griffin.
Ken Griffin.
Yep.
Griffin or Griffith? Ken Griffin. He's going after him criminally.
Is that right?
Well, the problem is that Citadel is a market maker, and I believe they've got more money than the U.S. government, and they have somehow allegedly are being accused of abusing the system in terms of creating shares that don't exist, or short those shares and then true them up much later.
Right.
It's almost like kiting checks back in the day. Remember when you were in college and you had to have groceries, you wrote a check on Monday, or you took $40 out on money out of the grocery store, put it in the bank, and then wrote a check against it, because you had a 3-day float. It's somewhat like that, but it's at a much greater cost because it costs market cap. It costs shareholders who own those stocks to lose retirement money. Elon Musk lost personal wealth because of the big shorting scandal with Tesla, and the same thing with many small cap and large cap stocks. Howie, can we touch on that just for a second, because that's a pretty big deal. I think you saw the Devin Nunes comment talking about abusive short selling is going to come to an end, which opens the door for things like high frequency trading and other ways to cheat the market. But talk about that just a little bit, Howie.
Well, spoofing special. I mean, if you have, let's say, 1 million shares on the market for company ABC.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, 2 million shares are trading. Well, that's going to be a problem, especially if those 2 million shares, that extra million is all to the downside.
How does that happen, Howie? Because when you say spoofing, those are counterfeit shares. The way I think it happens is when you tell your broker that you want to, when you sign a brokerage agreement with Fidelity or TD Ameritrade just for your regular investment accounts, you agree, unless you tell them not to loan your shares out for legitimate shorting purposes. Shorting.
But that's not spoofing.
No, that's not. That's the true short, right, Howie?
Yeah.
And shorting is okay. I guess the argument, Howie, is it creates an organized market. Is that how you would approach that?
Creates more liquidity. You can get some income for a passive portfolio, and it's fair fundamentally. There's still the same number of
you're hedging.
Shares.
So
you just have to go out there and pay for them.
Well, so the trend is your friend. As the stock's moving down, you could bet on it going down further. You never try to time the bottom or the top. So long story short, if you tell your broker you want to borrow shares, they're going to go out in the market. They got to borrow those shares from another broker. Well, what happens if they don't borrow the shares and they just sell the stock?
Right.
Then that creates a counterfeit share because they don't true up broker to broker for what, 10 trading days or 10 trading days, 20 working days, whatever. Howie, is that about right?
Yeah, they can have 10 trading days, about 2 weeks. Yeah, and they can push for longer. And by the way, they don't go on forever. You can just keep doing the system, and if some go over 2 weeks, 10 trading days, we'll just put that towards the failure to deliver. We'll say our sorry, and that trader is debonused.
Well, yeah, right.
Like
So
but it's not going to end the world for these market makers, so it's not going to stop them.
Right.
I mean, you really have to give some pain when you have.
No, I agree.
Too much of this.
I chased a rabbit there for a minute because we were talking about it on the break. But back to Mary's question, let's talk about Bitcoin. Is Donald Trump being swayed by the Elon Musk of the world, or has enough ground gone under us the last 4 years to make it so maybe it makes sense? It's an honest support.
It is one of those changes, Mary. I think you're spot on. There was one stance 4 years ago, and now there's the complete opposite. I think it's not really Elon. There's been a lot of super PAC spending in a lot of, I think it's something like 58 races had more than $1 million spent on crypto-based
why do you think it's suddenly going to be okay? Is there more regulation in place? I mean, it still seems dicey to me that if you put your money in, you don't really know how to get it out and how fast you can get it out. It's easy to buy it. It's not easy to control. It's difficult to do stops. And trailing stops, so you can sort of set it and forget it. I typically, in any day trading situation, if I'm going to lose 5%, I get a trailing stop and it gets me out of the stock when I'm sleeping at night if it's trading overseas. That doesn't happen, or it's just starting to happen with Bitcoin. You think that's part of it? Is they've got a better infrastructure or better regulation?
I actually think that the crypto industry, the big crypto especially, and responsible crypto, I would say, want regulation. They want some rules to the game. And the SEC has just not done a very good job. They've said a lot of this is just not allowed. Coinbase, for example, is suing the SEC saying, well, you can't just say none of it is allowed. It fits these definitions of property or security or something like that. And so we've seen politicians get involved and say, no, there does need to be regulation. And when politicians get involved, political money gets involved, and that actually won a lot of races. I think something like 50 of 58 races where they made a big crypto investment or policy decision.
Hey, Howie,
they went towards the crypto side.
I got a question about the Fed Reserve as it comes into crypto. Will they have oversight? And Jerome Powell is maintaining he can't be fired. If I'm not mistaken, the Fed chair is appointed by the president. So where do we stand on both of those subjects?
Yeah, so this is all part of the action that happened last week. So Trump is signaling towards a new SEC chairman. That will probably have crypto. At the same time, the Fed lowered interest rates the day after the election. Not an unexpected move, only a quarter point, no problem. But one of the things that Fed Chair Powell was asked during the press conference where he announced the rate cut was, hey, what if the president asked you to resign? Would you resign? And he said, no, I wouldn't. And he said, well, what if you're fired? He said, actually, legally, I can't be fired. And that became a big news story for a few days because now we have experts on both sides saying, actually, Congress has the power. The Fed is independent. He serves a term, and no one can fire him until it expires. And then a lot of the Trump surrogates are coming out and saying, well, actually, this is part of the executive branch. Trump controls the Treasury Department, and the Treasury can take it back. So it looks like it's something that would go to the Supreme Court if it was.
Howie Font for president. So when he's president, we don't have to worry about it. Thanks, Howie. Yep. We have a very special day today. Guys, do we have a birthday song we can play? Because, no, it's not Mike Costa's Funyun Bakobit's birthday, but it is JB's birthday today. Happy birthday, Jason Banks, our floor director here. Look at this. And the lovely Chris Castillo, our producer, is out there.
Wow. We have some keto cupcakes for you, too.
Is that what we got there? I know there's a bunch
of... but I tried to find...
So is this the 30th anniversary of your 25th year? Is that what it is? Very good. Happy 30th. Happy 30th. Boys, take it out. There you go. Happy birthday, buddy. Hey, coming up in a second, Amit Kumar with Anixa Biosciences. Had some huge news come out last week. And coming up on the after him, we've got, I think is it Slemon or Slemon or some food companies coming out.
Sounds like the opening to
feed you
Laverne
all.
and Shirley.
Well, it's Costa's guess. He probably misspelled it. It's probably like the Smith Group or something like
You
that.
guys figure it out.
Big Bishop. From the Loft 100 Studios in sunny San Diego, California. Big Biz Show's on the air. 125 million TV home strong, nationwide, coast to coast, thanks to BizTV, Bloomberg, American Forces Radio Network, television services. Of course, you two American. Greg Cotteroff, our producer. Mary Bird Codwin is licking her wounds from Election Day. I'm Sully. I don't know where Costa's. Costa's birthday today, so I'm pretty sure it's...
He's out all week. He's not coming in.
I'm pretty sure Mike's not...
Is today to the day? It's today, right?
Tomorrow.
The 13th.
But JB's birthday is today. Jason Banks. Look who's here. Nadia Colucci. Nadia the elbow. Nadia the lip. Nadia bag of donuts. Colucci is here. Of course, she's the founder of Colucci and Company Realty Group. Thanks for coming back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Here's my question for you. People are talking...
Yeah. In other words, bring it.
I keep hearing interest rates are going down. I keep hearing from all these real estate professionals that it's going to cause a boom because of a 25 basis point. I have never believed that if you cut interest rates by this much, it's going to cause a big change. Am I right or wrong?
I mean, I think we have history that shows that it does. I think people are really rate sensitive right now. There's like this magic mortgage number that I think people wait for, and it's got a 5 in front of it.
Yeah.
So the last stat I saw, I think, said 57% of homeowner or home buyers are waiting for rates to drop. I don't know why, because if you look at it, it's like 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other, right? If you can borrow at a cheaper rate, then you're going to end up borrowing more because 50% of people are kind of waiting for that to happen. So it's going to bring like an influx to the market, then the prices are going to go up, but at least you're paying more money at a cheaper rate.
Right.
I think today is a sweet spot where you can negotiate a little bit better. There's a few less buyers, and a seller and buyer can really meet at a negotiating table and have some fun. Whereas normally that's not the case. If there's 15 offers, you got to take it with or without the roof and kitchen sink.
Well, but does the reason they move on such small increments, because obviously if the Fed changes their Fed fund rate, that's the discount window. That does not affect mortgage rates because mortgage rates follow the long bond.
Right.
But when it happens, it's not a big giant. It doesn't go from like 6 to 2. It goes from 6 to 5.75 or 5.99. What does that change in monthly payment? I mean,
1 point changes, I think, about 10% affordability. So
really,
but we had a little blip, a little decrease in August, and our sales went up through the roof in September. So I think it's psychological for a lot of people too, and I think, you know, this new wave of buyers is so sensitive from, you know, kind of coming up when it was like 3 and 4%.
Yeah, right.
So maybe they're a little spoiled and want that again. I mean, I'd love that again too,
right.
but I don't know that that's going to happen.
So history shows that reducing mortgage rates. I realize there's refinancing that goes on.
Sure. I'd rather refinance and have less buyers to compete with and secure a better, you know, term for myself with the seller than compete with a bunch of people and get what I get. Right?
Yeah, so nationally post-COVID, and keep in mind, folks, we're here in San Diego, and Nadia is an expert in San Diego, but a lot of the themes go nationally and in Southern California. Since COVID, there's been tough inventory, and the supply-demand would argue that if you have less homes, they're going to be more expensive. Does any of this change? Does this election change anything? Does the interest rates change anything on that? Do you think we'll see more inventory because of affordability, or the 10% increase in I can buy a bigger house for the same money type thing?
I think there's like a lock-in effect that sellers have. So I think sellers would sell their homes more, that 3 to 5 year kind of pattern, if you will. But I think they're holding on to that because they also have a low rate.
Right.
So they're like, well, shoot, if I sell at my 4%, I still have to go out and buy something at 6.8 right now. So people are kind of so I do think right now, uniquely in time, with everything going on in the new year, if we do see those rates drop, I think it's going to bombard the market because you're going to have sellers finally willing to sell, which might help a little bit of our inventory issue. But now you have all those buyers that have been waiting too. So it's not like we're going to have an influx of inventory. Typically here in Southern California, spring to September is kind of like our sweet spot to sell. It's like basically 3 months that you don't sell.
Right. The interesting part of this here is because of COVID again. We saw people going home from their offices and such. I've always thought in the same vein that if we have EVs and self-driving vehicles someday, suddenly your workday changes. You leave the house at 8. You leave work at 3:30, if whatever how long your commute is, right? And suddenly you start working and have better quality of life. I think that expands remote areas for more real estate if that happens. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, we've already kind of seen that here in San Diego, kind of those secondary markets, like typically like a Riverside, Temecula kind of area, and even east here, Escondido, different parts. And a lot of people have come down from different parts of California, come south, because they're like, if I can live anywhere and work from home, I want to go where the weather's better, or maybe I get a little more bang for my buck. I actually get a yard, or, here we're going to spoil.
Are you seeing more people that look at houses in terms of having an office space in their home now?
Yeah.
Does that happen? Or broadcast space with everybody's got a podcast, everybody needs to work from home. When people are looking at homes, are they looking at that extra bedroom as maybe not the kid's extra bedroom? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think I see a lot of that. We talked about it last time too, finding a property that has the potential for growth, like adding an ADU or a JADU that you can either rent out or you can use as a studio. You can use it as a multitude of things. So no, for sure.
ADU is accessory dwelling unit.
Yes.
Another house. What was the tax reason for that? Didn't they approve that you could build an ADU and not affect your property tax? Was that the original part of that thing, or did you hear? Because I remember you and I talked about this a number of times.
I don't remember what it was, but I remember talking about it.
It was a property tax issue that they were about to take away from us. So is our ADUs safe and sound for now?
I mean, from my understanding, yeah. I mean, I have one. Mine's a JADU, so mine's
what does that mean?
That's a junior ADU, which means it's attached to my property. Okay. So an ADU is separate.
So you have one piece of property, granny flat.
Yeah, and I kind of cut off part of my house, and they have their own entrance and separate access to the.
Okay, wait a second. On that subject, what about the Airbnb thing, or the? I think that's what it's called, right?
Airbnb, yeah.
So people, is that another thing that people are looking at when they walk in? They look, this is look at Rick DeVoe, one of our music managers here, makes a revenue model out of his freaking boat. I mean, everything he does, he moves out of the house during race season, he moves out of the house. So is that a piece of what people look at on the way in though?
For sure. You have to have a permit in most cities. I would imagine that's throughout the nation too. It's not just automatic. There is, you do have to get a permit from the city, and then the city wants a little tax.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a tiny.
Home buyers kind of worried moving into, it might have the opposite effect of moving into a neighborhood that has too many Airbnbs. And I know a neighborhood where they're just frustrated with all the properties that are building ADUs and having Airbnb, and they don't like all the visitors coming in.
I think that's why the cities are getting more involved to kind of regulate that, so that every block maybe has a couple, but there is a phone number available. They do notify you. So, noise ordinance is 10 p.m. usually. So if it's beyond that, whether it's your neighbor or their guest, you're going to call who you're going to call anyways. Okay. But JADUs, I believe they have different restrictions in different cities that the owner has to be on the property. Right. So that way I handle the problem if there's an issue.
The one last question before you let you out. Her name is Nadia Colucci. It is coluccico.com. We'll put it on our website, so you don't have to spell it. You can see it up there on the screen.
You can't spell it? It's so easy to spell.
Yeah, so it's 17 C's in it.
I was going to say, how many C's do we have?
COLUCCICO.com. Big Biz Show. We're back in a minute. studios in sunny San Diego, California. 125 million television homes strong nationwide, coast to coast. Let's not forget BizTV, American Life Network, U2 America, and of course Bloomberg in Europe. And they're not in Europe yet, but we're going to be there, so might as well say it now. And El Financiero in Mexico. Also American Forces Radio Network, 175 countries, and all the shit to see. Yes, we are simulcast, TV and radio. Mary Burt Godwin, Greg Todoroff, myself, and the DTT.
That was good.
Yeah, I called for 2. They had 3, and somebody's not getting paid today.
Yeah.
Are you? Did you guys see the news on one of our publicly traded companies that we feature called Anixa Biosciences? The news on Friday about the data that came out. Did you check that out?
Yes.
Pretty impressive stuff.
Can't wait to hear him talk about
exactly. Amit Kumar is the chairman and CEO of Anixa Biosciences. They are publicly traded under the stock symbol ANIX. You can also go to their website, which is anixa.com, just like you see there on the screen. For our radio audience, it's ANIXA, focusing on the treatment and prevention of cancer. Here he is once again. I had a chance to talk to him this morning before the show. Amit Kumar. Amit, how are you, brother? Good to talk to you.
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Hey, let's talk about the Cleveland Clinic presenting your breast cancer vaccine data. There was a lot of data there. Why don't you give us the highlights and take it right straight from the CEO on exactly what happened?
Yeah, there was a lot of data. We presented information on several groups of women that were being treated with this vaccine. The most significant piece was that we combined the vaccine with another immunotherapy called Keytruda, which is a $22 billion drug. Keytruda has been recently approved for treating breast cancer. And it's another type of immunotherapy, and it has its own side effect profile, which is pretty rough. But when it works, it works well, and it works on a small number of patients. What we were trying to see is if we could combine the vaccine with Keytruda and make it more potent as a treatment for breast cancer. And in this study, we were looking for 2 things. One, to verify that the vaccine combined with Keytruda didn't create a more aggressive side effect profile, meaning it wasn't creating side effects that were intolerable for the patient. And we found that to be the case, meaning the combination of Keytruda and our vaccine was tolerable. In fact, it was quite safe. And then the second thing we were looking to verify is that with the Keytruda and the vaccine, we were still creating antigen-specific T cells, meaning the vaccine was teaching the patient's body to attack cancer cells. And again, we verified that was the case. So the combination of Keytruda and the vaccine, we think, is going to be synergistic because what the vaccine does is it creates T cells that attack cancer. And what Keytruda does is it maintains the potency of those T cells. So together, based on data we've seen in animals and in other studies, we believe that this is going to be a very powerful synergistic combination for treatment of patients who've been newly diagnosed with breast cancer. And so that was a really, really significant and very...
Yeah, that's huge. Welcome back. It was great to see you again, and I love this news. And I want to know what stage do these women? Is it first, second, third stage? Does it matter when they can get this treatment, this vaccine?
Well, the long-term view for this vaccine, the vision for this vaccine, is to be able to give it to women, basically all women who are worried about breast cancer, to prevent breast cancer arising in those women, kind of like we give vaccines for infectious diseases. But in
let me interrupt real fast. So on that same subject, so when you hear these days about a female testing positive for the BRCA gene, am I saying that right?
Yep.
BRCA gene. Is that the time when you do a vaccine for this, or do you need to? Because right now the I guess I don't know, the leading sort of intelligence is that you have a full double mastectomy and then go into vaccination. Can you overlay that for us?
Yeah, a lot of women who have mutations in their BRCA genes are choosing to have this double mastectomy while they're completely healthy at the time. That's a very disfiguring surgery. Angelina Jolie did this and went public a few years ago with her journey here. And frankly, once this vaccine is approved, those women are going to be the first women in line to get this vaccine, because it's much easier to get a vaccine than to have, your breasts surgically removed, right?
But even though that is the outcome for these women, that they make that choice, they still should take the vaccine after, assuming this is approved by the FDA. Is that the accurate sort of description of what's going to be happening?
That's correct. The prophylactic mastectomies reduce the risk dramatically of breast cancer, but you can still get breast cancer. So we would recommend you still get the vaccine. But preferably, if you get the vaccine, you don't have to do the surgery, because the vaccine will reduce your risk for getting breast cancer.
Hey, Amit, by the way, Amit Kumar is our guest, Chairman and CEO of Anixa Biosciences, ANX. We always get a ton of email off of this from our female audience members and anybody actually concerned about family and such. Let's talk about your other clinical trial for terminal ovarian cancer patients, because that's another big piece of data that came up here.
Yeah, that's also a really, really exciting clinical trial that's going on at the Moffitt Cancer Center in Florida. And these are ovarian cancer patients who have failed all of the therapies. So they're essentially terminal patients. They've got 3 or 4 months, more or less, to live, and their doctors have told them to go get their affairs in order. And we've only treated 6 patients right now at very, very low doses, because that's what you got to start with. And we were not expecting any results at these low doses, but we've already seen some amazing results. In fact, one of the patients, after we gave her the vaccine, she is now alive for 19 months. Wow. Completely unaffected, and she's going strong, very good quality of life. In fact, I talked to her just 2 weeks ago, and she was, in the car driving with her husband, and great situation. Now, we've shown that we've knocked out a portion of her tumor, but not her whole tumor. And probably the reason is that because she was one of the first patients, we gave her such a low dose. And so we went back to the FDA very quickly, asked them to approve us giving her a second dose, and they quickly saw the data and gave us the permission to give her a second dose. And we gave her a second dose a few days ago, and she's going really well. And in the next couple of months, we hope to be able to look to see if her tumor has regressed even more. And it's amazing. Overall survival for her is at least 19 months and going strong. That's amazing. And if we could do this for a few more patients as we go to higher doses, this is going to be an amazing technology, and it's going to change the landscape of ovarian cancer patients.
Now, when you say, excuse me for interrupting, but when you say quickly, and you got the FDA approval quickly, in terms of a cancer terminal patient, I mean, quickly needs to be a day or two sometimes. So what's the time frame that you're talking about there?
Well, in this case, it was just several days. It wasn't immediate, a day or two, but they realized the value of this. And now we've gone to the FDA to ask them for permission to give us permission to enable a second dose for any patient, so that we don't have to rush to them on a case-by-case basis, because it looks like at the lower doses, some of these patients might need a second dose. We're hoping as we get to higher doses, a single dose will be enough to destroy the tumor completely.
Hey, Amit, before we let you out of here today, I've got to ask about future here. We're going to 2025. There's an election. Does any of this affect you? Does any of the new year affect any new plans going forward? Obviously, lots of news coming out in the positive here. So, things are looking bright for you guys. What's happening over the next, let's say, 12 to 18 months?
Well, in the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to be doing continuing our clinical trials. We're going to start the phase 2 trial on the breast cancer vaccine based on the data we just released last week. We're going to continue treating terminal ovarian cancer patients with higher doses of this therapy that's working great for some of the initial patients. And I'm looking forward to just amazing new data that hopefully will enable us to change the world.
Okay, you feel better now? Don't you feel better every time you talk to him?
I do.
Amit, thanks, man. I appreciate it. We got to get you back in studio. Good stuff. Excellent data coming out. ANIX, if you want to read more about that, you go to our website, bigbizshow.com, or you can go to anixa.com, ANIXA. Boy, is that positive news, right?
Really, yeah.
I just feel bad if you got the mutation of the BRCA. And then, man, what a time to not make the decision or make the decision. Right?
Yeah.
Big Biz Show, more to come. Stay by.
And so what are some of the pitfalls that maybe some businesses might run into when they're looking at distribution?
Yeah, they're constantly underestimating, believe it or not, the ease of it or the importance of it. It's execution. Execution is so very important, but if it's not on shelf, it's not for sale.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about Marion Roberts juice if it's not on shelf.
Right.
So distribution trusts us, and so does retail, and our team is incredible.
Live from the Loft 100 studios in sunny San Diego, California. Big Biz Show's on the air. Great to have you along, and what a great show we have. 125 million TV homes in the U.S. plus everywhere else in the world, either via radio or via Bloomberg, thanks to BizTV, American Life Network, U2 America, and of course Loft 100 Studios, which Mary owns. You're allowed to suggest guests. I think you're the only one who hasn't brought a guest in. You can bring guests in. I think we should bring your girls in and do a dance thing.
Oh my God.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Because they're teenagers.
Doesn't matter. The business that is a license to steal. Any club sport, any club volleyball, club pickleball, club baseball, club softball, or club cheerleading or dance. That is a great business model. Do you realize that we had polo fields here in San Diego, California? They had polo for years in weddings. It was sold off to a soccer company called the San Diego Surf.
Oh yeah.
That company's doing a couple $100 million a year in youth soccer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dance is pretty expensive.
Right.
I'm on the other side of it right now.
What business is that? So let me talk to you about Kristen Kanstrup. Kristen Kanstrup is the CEO of a company called Evaxion, EVAX, Evaxion Biotech. We are talking about cancer-based topic here in immunology. So we live in San Diego. You guys might be watching us somewhere in New York City or listening to us somewhere over the world on American Forces Network. But long story short, we are a biotech, biopharma city here. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about immunology and targeted cancer treatment for a long time. What we're talking about here is a personalized cancer vaccine like we talked about with Anixa. And I think it's important that we're having a show like this because there's a lot to expect in the next 18 months because the FDA is unclogged post-COVID. Keep in mind, COVID vaccines were not put in place faster than normal. They just got to cut the line.
Yep.
They got to cut in front of the line. And by the way, vaccines are a recipe. They're all the same with the exception of the antigen that you put in these things, which is why I was not personally afraid of the vaccine in terms of the velocity in which it came out. But I think it's important to understand, FDA is so backed up and as a result of that we're just now seeing some of these therapies. I know how impassioned you are about the ADHD therapy, about the ovarian cancer therapy, about the breast cancer therapy, and now they're starting to move the needle. Kristen Kanstrup, of course, is the CEO of Evaxion, stock symbol EVAX. Kristen, are things moving faster? Don't you feel like things are getting unstuck here in terms of the arc of the FDA story?
No, things are definitely moving faster. I mean, no doubt, there's a lot of excitement around moving things forward. I mean, if you look at cancer as such, I mean, think about it, 10 million people dying each year, despite all the advancements we have seen in cancer over the past many years. So very clear, something more needs to happen. And of course, if you combine that with the advancements that we're seeing in AI and AI in drug discovery and drug development, I mean, this is a perfect opportunity for really moving things forward fast to make a difference. And that's, of course, exactly what we are aiming to do at the Evaxion. So super exciting times.
Hey, Kristen, not to interrupt real quick, you brought up AI, and you brought up that before we were on the air, because this is interesting because it's all about velocity with AI. You're using everything on the market, everything in the intelligence database, everything in the medical database to make decisions based upon what the therapy is going to be. And that's going to increase the velocity, and it's also going to increase the odds that the FDA is going to, it's going to work so the FDA can get you to a quicker approval. Talk about that piece of it.
Well, it's about two things. It's about velocity, but it's also very much about precision. Because if you think about it, what we do, we design a cancer vaccine specifically tailored to the individual patient. I mean, imagine you get metastatic melanoma, which is the indication we are in phase 2 development for. Would you like to get the same therapy as everybody else, which works on average well across patients, or would you like to get one designed specifically for you, which of course only is possible when we have an AI platform that allows us to do it in a very fast way. So it's about velocity, but it's also about precision, being able to make a tailored vaccine designed specifically for the individual patient.
Hey, let's talk about EVX-01. EVX-01 is your lead candidate. Talk about where we're at in the arc of the FDA story and exactly what it's doing to help metastatic melanoma.
Happy to. I mean, we are in phase 2 clinical development. We actually just presented the first 1 year readout, or it's a 2-year trial. We presented the first 1 year readout of that phase 2 trial in September. And there we actually saw a 69% overall response rate for the patients in that trial, which compared to other immunotherapies within that patient population is quite unheard of and a very high overall response rate. So truly excited about that, and that trial is continuing. We will have the 2-year readout of the trial in Q3 2025, and are hoping that that will make a huge difference for metastatic melanoma patients. And as I said, it is an individualized cancer therapy designed specifically for the individual patient.
Wow. Christian, can you talk a little bit about the R&D collaboration with Merck and having them as your largest shareholder?
Yeah, I mean, we got Merck in as a shareholder in December 23, and then they have invested one more time earlier on this year and are now our largest shareholder. But what we also have, and which is truly exciting for patients with infectious diseases, is we have in September signed a large vaccine development collaboration with Merck. I mean, this is an agreement of significant strategic and financial value to us, but also offering great hope for patients with infectious diseases. And this offers the opportunity for us getting milestones up to almost 600 million per product. But very importantly, so we have teamed up with the world leader in vaccine development to develop 2 novel infectious disease vaccine candidates for diseases where there are no vaccines today. So very exciting having the opportunity of collaborating with the world leader in addressing a serious unmet need out there.
His name is Christian Kanstrup. He is the CEO of Evaxion, EVAX. Christian, let's talk about the election a little bit, how it affects you. I think it's going to help the FDA with respect to unclogging some things. But does it matter to you which side this thing went? Will it make things different for 2025, or do you just keep your head down and keep moving?
I mean, we keep moving. Of course, it is going to be interesting to see what it means, especially vis-a-vis FDA, right? But for now, we have so many important things that we need to execute upon, both for benefit of patients, but also for realizing the full value of what we can as a company benefiting our shareholders. So we focus on that, and then we leave politics to you guys over there.
Yeah. Good thing Costa's not here today. Christian Kanstrup, CEO, Evaxion, EVAX is their stock symbol. Thank you, buddy. That does it for us. Big Biz Show, bigbizshow.com. Check us out there. Do we have a Twitter? Do we have a Twitter on the line? Do we have a Facebook on the line?
Sully on the air. That's our Twitter.
There you go.
That's her job, and I'm on right on time. Big Biz Show. See you tomorrow.